How to get out of your company so you can sell it or start a second company. Hello, everyone. It's Wolfgang. So this is sort of a conundrum for business owners, and it comes up pretty frequently. It's very common that a business owner will want to sell the company at some point, and sometimes they want to start a second company and keep the first one. That also is not that uncommon. So if you have a day-to-day role in your company and you try to sell it, the new owner will ask you to do an earn-out, what's known as an earn-out. An earn-out is a period of time, a duration that the existing owner of the business stays in the company to keep it operating while the new owner gets used to it. In other words, if you have a day-to-day role in your company and you're selling it, the new owner will very commonly say, you're a key man in the company, so you'll need to stay on for 3 to 6 months. Sometimes I've heard earnouts last as long as 5 years if it's a large purchase. There was a $180 million company I'm aware of where the existing owner had a pretty substantial day-to-day role in the company. He sold it, and he actually signed up for a 5-year earnout. And what an earnout is the new owner doesn't give you all the money for at the time of the sale. They'll give a portion of it, 40%, 50%, depending on what deal is negotiated. So the existing owner doesn't get the full payment until the earnout period is over. And that allows the new owner to get used to running the business, to make sure that he wasn't a sucker to buy it, to make sure that there's a legitimate business thriving that he's buying. So the earnout is kind of a bummer. If you're trying to sell your company and you just want out of it because you want to move on with your life for whatever reason, if you still have a day-to-day role and you try to sell it, a new owner will rightfully say you're a key person in the company, and a portion of the value of the company is in you, Mr. Owner, Mr. Current Owner. And so that's to be avoided, and it can be avoided. So this video explains how to avoid that, how to avoid a lengthy earn-out duration. And another instance where this comes up, if you're running a company and you want to start a second one because you see an opportunity, but you still have a substantial day-to-day role in the first company, you could easily fail the first company and fail the new one you're trying to start. You might ask, how does Elon Musk do it? He does what I'm going to explain here. To some degree, this is not an exact replica of what Musk does, but it's the general idea of how to extract yourself, how to get out of your company so you can either sell it or start a second company. And you have to do that because you can only wear so many hats and be good at it. I mean, if you can imagine trying to be a top physicist and at the same time trying to be a top medical doctor, that would be pretty challenging. They're both science in the sciences. They're related. They have a lot of things in common, but it would be very difficult to be successful at both at the same time. You have to figure out how to extract yourself from the business, how to extract yourself to do either one or two, to sell the business or start a second company. So the key word to make this work is delegating. How to delegate. You have to figure out the delegating. A lot of people stumble with this because they don't really understand how to do it, what it can lead to. So I'm going to explain a very simple, an introduction to delegating, how to make it work. And it starts with this. For 1 to 2 months, you should keep track of all of your actions in your company. This is assuming you have a day-to-day role in your company. You're trying to extract yourself out of it. So for 1 or 2 months, keep track of all your activities in your company. Just write them down. And then put those activities in 3 categories. Top priority, that could include things like hiring key positions in the company. That could include making changes to the product line or the services your company offers. Top priority things that really the topmost person should make, those decisions that the topmost person should make. Top hiring decisions, product and service decisions, those sorts of things. That must be done by the top person and probably cannot be delayed. Like you can't really delay hiring a top position in the company. So you can't really, so that's generally done by the top person. So you rank your activities into top priority, TP, or N for necessary but time flexible, and then WC when convenient. So let me give you some examples of necessary. This could include working with finance to increase efficiencies in the company. Those are not necessarily mission critical, but it can make the business more efficient and better and save money, and that can go right to the bottom line in profit. So working with accounting and finance to improve efficiency throughout the company, lower level employee hiring, firing, employee training, website updates, things that are necessary, but they're time flexible. They're not urgent. They're not urgent like we have to make product changes to be more competitive in the marketplace. We have to hire a new VP of sales. So it's a little bit lower priority than the top priority, but they're still necessary actions. Okay, and then the third category is when convenient. Examples of this could be team building exercises with employees, social media campaigns, long-term market research. Where's the industry going? Where does our company fit in that over the long term? So those are things that should be done, but they can be done when they're convenient. They're different from necessary but time flexible. They're much different from top priority. So you basically keep track of your activities, put them into one of these three categories, and then once you've done that, once you know which activities are in what category, you have to start getting yourself used to delegating. And I'll warn you in advance, because I come from a family of people who are very hands-on, and a lot of people in our family have a mentality of, I'm the best one to do every job in my company because I'm the most concerned about it, and therefore I can do the best work. And while that may be true, if you're trying to sell your company or start a second one, you cannot do everything in your company. You have to learn to delegate. And if you put your tasks into these three categories, you can wean yourself off of being a sort of a I've got to do everything mentality into incrementally. You can do things like assign the lowest priority tasks to subordinates in the company, or automate them. So you should get yourself used to delegating by assigning the when convenient task as a starting point for learning how to delegate. Assign the when convenient activities to a subordinate, or automate the activities. And the activities these can vary depending on your company, right? But in almost every company, you should easily be able to identify the top most priority things, the things that are necessary but they're a little more time flexible, and then the when convenient things. In any company, you should be able to have all the activities put in one of those three categories. So you get yourself used to delegating by first assigning the when convenient things and monitor that. So if you assign the when convenient actions to a subordinate, just watch how they do. And you're doing two things. One, you're getting yourself in a new mindset of, I don't have to do everything. Someone else is going to do this. Let me see how well they do it. And you have to sort of take a hands-off mode. When you're first getting used to delegating, if you are sort of a perfectionist sort of mentality and you want to do everything because you think that's the most sensible thing, this gives you a chance, by starting with the lowest priority things, it gives you a chance to get used to delegating, because you can say to yourself, even if this person screws this up, it's such a low priority thing, it's not going to hurt the company. And at the same time, you can get used to not being a perfectionist and not demanding everything be done perfect all the time. I mean, if you're a parent, right, if you have kids, you know full well that your kids are not perfect all the time. Maybe some of the time, maybe most of the time, but not all the time. It's the same thing with learning to delegate. And some company owners treat this differently because money is at stake. The business, the income from the business is at stake. But you have to do this if you're going to sell your business or start a second company. You start off with the small stuff, the when convenient activities assigned to a subordinate, and just monitor them and get yourself used to that delegation process. And then once you've done that, move up in terms of priority into the more important stuff. The next level, the necessary but time flexible stuff. Some of the examples I used. Lower level employee hiring and firing, employee training, website updates. Assign those tasks to a subordinate, and go and do the same thing you did with the WC activities. Watch what they do, allow them to make mistakes. The whole idea is it's not going to be perfect, but your goal is to either sell your company or start a second company. So you're going to have to let loose of the reins a little bit. So after you delegate the WC activities and the N activities, when convenient and necessary but more time flexible, after you've got those nailed and they're delegated out to either subordinates or you've automated them, then you can start working on the top priority things. This is going to take longer. This is going to take a little bit longer, because top priority tasks in your company, those are the ones that could hurt the company if you get these wrong. So this is a little more judicious effort in terms of the delegation process. It takes longer. It takes a little more cautious approach to the subordinate that you delegate to. You have to monitor them a little more closely. As an example, a top priority thing, hiring for a key position in the company. Let's say you need a vice president of sales, right? Normally, you would make that call. You would make that decision. You would make the final interview decision to hire or not hire. So handing that off to a subordinate, that's a big deal, right? Because sales, vice president of sales, that's the money for the company. So it gives you a sense of, okay, this is the most important part of the company's activities. So you should allow maybe a year 6 months, a year, to fully hand off like one or two of the top priority activities in the company. In other words, if you're thinking of selling your company or starting a second one, you can't do it tomorrow and do it well and do it. You have to plan for this, because the top priority tasks that you would normally want to do yourself, it's going to take time to hand those off safely, to effectively hand those off to another person in the company. So, and by the way, examples of things you could automate, right, in the company. Most companies have an email marketing campaign to do marketing with existing clients. So you could automate that with HubSpot or MailChimp or any of the email marketing campaign platforms. Billing, you could automate billing using QuickBooks Online, or Xero or Square Invoices. Any platform that does automated billing, instead of delegating it to a subordinate, or maybe you delegate it to a subordinate, but it's their job to bring into the company a new piece of software to automate it, and then they oversee the software. Inventory management could be done with NetSuite ERP or Katana or any of the platforms that automate inventory management. So you get the idea. Some things can be automated, and yes, you might have to assign a subordinate to work with that software, but still you're taking yourself out of the picture and you're handing that off to a subordinate. Okay, so we're working on handing off the top priority tasks, one or two to begin with, because this is going to cause some heartburn when you start handing off the highest level decisions and activities in the company that are very important, and they could be make or break activities in the company. You're going to have to allow yourself some time to get used to that handoff. Larry Ellison was the CEO of Oracle for a long time. When he handed off the CEO job, he handed it off to two people, Safra Catz and what was the other guy's name? Two people. There was a guy who they were co-CEOs. So Larry Ellison, he's getting up there in years. I think he's well over 70. He might be getting close to 80. Larry Ellison handed off to Safra Catz, a gal, and then a guy. They were co-CEOs. So you might need to do something like that. You might need to identify the top two people in the company and say, I want you two guys to work together on one or two of the top priority tasks. I'm going to watch how you do. I'm going to give you feedback and input. And over the next year, I want to be able to ramp up handing off the top priority tasks, all of them in the company, to you or you two people. And so that's kind of the idea for the delegation. You wean yourself into it incrementally. If you're a perfectionist and you like to do everything, you're going to have to take it easy on yourself and allow people to make mistakes and give them feedback. Here's how I would do it. I see that mistake you made. Here's a better way that you might consider. But eventually the goal is you want to sell this company. You want to be able to sell, and you do not want the new owner to tell you, we're only going to give you 40% of your selling price. And we're only going to give you the rest of it if, after your earnout period, these milestones have been attained. These revenue or these profit milestones have been attained. You don't want to get yourself into that. You want to be completely out of any day-to-day role in the company, right? So that you can sell it and not have to play a role in running the company. I mean, you might still have an agreement with a new owner that they want you to stick around a little bit as a condition of the sale, but it's not like you're the day-to-day most important person in the company, and if you're not there, the company falls flat on its face. You don't want to be in that kind of situation. So if you go through this process, you start off very incrementally with the lowest priority activities, delegate those. The next higher level of activities, the necessary but time flexible, delegate those, and then start with the top priority tasks, one or two to begin with. Monitor the people you assign them to, and then gradually hand off the entire set of actions to subordinates and or automation in the company. And then finally, everything is delegated and you can sell the company, or a lot of people want to start a second company. So Elon Musk, what he does is he runs the company himself. One of my friends was the head of HR at Tesla, a guy I used to work with. The company I worked at him with, he was the head of HR at that company too. He's a friend of mine. And so what Musk tends to do is he's the top guy running the company, and then he extracts himself. Like, is he running Tesla day to day and running SpaceX and running all the other companies like Neuralink and XAI? No, he's not running all of them. He's delegating a lot of this. He's finding some key people at the top, and he is gradually conditioning them to be able to make big decisions. Because people have to grow into the ability to make big decisions that could hurt the company if they blow it. That takes a little bit of learning. And so what these top people do who are running multiple enterprises, they're not perfectionists running every detail of the company all the time. Maybe one day a week. they're involved in one of the companies. Then they switch to another company, but they're not running the company day to day all the time. So the company, believe it or not, is less valuable if you are doing if you have a day-to-day role in the company. It's less valuable to a buyer. And it's much more risky to start a second venture if you're required in the day-to-day in the first company. It's very risky to start another venture. You put the old company and the new company at risk if you do that. So I hope this helps. This was an idea, sort of a gentle introduction to delegating yourself out of day-to-day operations of a company so that you can either sell it as cleanly as possible without a long duration earnout, or start a second company. And by the way, there are other ways to extract yourself from a company. There's other ways to do this, but this is sort of an introduction to the thought process you'd want to consider. There are different levels of activities in any company, and you can start delegating with the least important things that won't hurt anything if the people make mistakes. So if you have any questions, please post in the comments. I'll try to answer those. And I really want to thank everyone for watching, and have a great day.